Hi friends, let's talk about some of the fun events and products and things that were new and exciting in 1965. Peter Jennings becomes the anchor for ABC News, and that's the name and the face that I recognized for my whole childhood, being on the news. The Newport Folk Festival was the first time that Dylan went electric, and his fans sort of revolted about that. And the Beatles subsequently went acoustic on their album Rubber Soul. First time they had recorded anything with acoustic guitars and the like. They also did their Shea Stadium concert in 1965, which led to them deciding that PA and the technology wasn't good enough to be doing big shows like that, so they retired from playing live for the rest of their career and just became a recording entity. The Mariner 4 give us the first up-close pictures of Mars, and Ed White became the first American astronaut to spacewalk. 23 minutes outside of his rocket. That was 4 years before we were on the moon, so I think it was whatever they had before the Apollo line of rockets. We had the Northeastern blackout, which from all accounts was a crazy scary thing on November 6th. And the events that led up to the Amityville horror took place. The family that was killed all in their beds, and then the next year, the guy that bought the house experienced a lot of weird poltergeisty, ghosty type of things, and it led to a book. The movie wouldn't come out for another year or so, but the events that took place in 1965 actually happened. Did they not write? I can't remember. Did they write the book in the 70s? This is 65. I keep conflating my decades. The St. Louis Arch was completed, and they had a hard time when they built up. When they got to the top block, the sun had come up and heated up the metal just enough that the blocks weren't fitting, so they had to spend a couple of hours hosing down the metal until it cooled down enough to where they could fit the key piece in. It was kind of a neat thing. You should look into it. It's kind of an interesting story. The Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston fight happened where the phrase was the Phantom Punch, where now we're pretty sure that Sonny Liston threw the fight for mob reasons or mob ties or something. I heard one story that they kidnapped his wife and child and said, if you don't lose that fight, you'll never see your family again. And there's a famous picture of it where it looks like Ali's over him just celebrating his victory, but really he's saying, get up, I didn't even hit you, get up. So that's an interesting story. Mary Quant, the British fashion designer, invented the miniskirt, and along with the newly invented go-go boots, became the look for the next couple of years. The swing in London and spread around the world. And The go-go boots and the miniskirt is, in my opinion, the sexiest look that a woman could wear. The internet was launched, not to the public, of course, but it started out as computer connections between several colleges or universities, and the first TGI Fridays opens. A Sony VCR would cost $1,000 in 1965 money, so that has to be like $5,000 or $8,000 today. And it wasn't like the VHS or Betamax from the 80s. It was a different tape. It was shaped a little different, but in all intents and purposes, it was the first VCR. The Operation game was invented, and I don't know if it's anybody else was concerned about the fact that dude's eyes were open while you're operating. I never had an Operation game growing up, but I played it at friend's house for many, many years. It was strangely fascinating. The cordless phone was invented. Apple Jacks, Gatorade, honeycomb cereal, the Pillsbury Doughboy premiered in commercials for the first time. Bounty paper towels, SpaghettiOs. It was the first year for Sprite, which I probably couldn't live without nowadays. And the first year for McDonald's Filet-O-Fish. The first Subway restaurant opened in Connecticut as Pete's Super Sub. And over the next couple of decades, it would spread like wildfire because apparently it is one of the cheapest franchises to get into if you're into that sort of thing. A loaf of bread costs about 25 cents, and a gallon of gas costs 29 cents. The Houston Astrodome was the first multi-purpose domed stadium in America, maybe the world, I'm not sure. But the first event that it hosted was not a football game, it was a Judy Garland concert with the Supremes opening up, and tickets cost between $1 and $6. It eventually would close in 2008. President Johnson signs Medicaid into law. And also the cigarette warning on the packs of cigarettes was proposed by the Surgeon General. The cigarettes are hazardous to your health. Who knew? We had the Selma March with Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X was shot. The anti-war sentiment was growing amid our vastly increasing involvement in Vietnam. Rest in peace to Edward R. Murrow, who was the subject of the George Clooney movie Good Night and Good Luck. And he was a TV guy, a big proponent of free speech and all that. You should go and see that movie. It's really good. Also, rest in peace to Dorothy Dandridge and Nat King Cole and Judy Holliday, who was one of the formidable dumb blonde cliche actresses in the wake of Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield. And Judy Holliday is amazing if you ever see her in any movies. Alan Freed died. Winston Churchill, rest in peace. and Stan Laurel of Laurel and Hardy. Now, let's talk about TV shows and do the top 10. Number 10 was Green Acres. Number 9 was Hogan's Heroes. How they were able to make a comedy sitcom out of World War II prisoners of war is amazing. Number 8 was Beverly Hillbillies, which I watched a ton of when I was a kid. It was always in syndication since my youth, 1965. Number 7 was Bewitched. Number 6 is Andy Griffith. No, that's Bridge Over the River Kwai. What's Andy Griffith had a whistling song. What was the whistling song from Andy Griffith? Number 5 was Batman. Number 4 was the Red Skelton Hour, and he was a holdover from the whole what do you call it? Oh, shoot. I can't think of the word. Burlesque is the only thing that comes to mind, but that's usually more bawdy stuff and women. And I'm talking about the stage comedians and variety shows and things that they did before there was television. Number 3, we got Lucille Ball, The Lucy Show, 1965. This was her second show after I Love Lucy. And she was still the biggest star on TV. Number 2 is Gomer Pyle, which is kind of funny. A lot of the comedy from a lot of these shows is very simplistic and doesn't really hold up. But I don't know if you like G humor. I mean, some of it's probably okay. And the number 1 show, like it had been for many years, was Bonanza. You were still real big on, real big on Westerns. I'm sure 75% of the movie sets and television sets in Hollywood at this time were still Western sets. So if you could come up with a Western show, it probably didn't cost too much to get a couple of horses and ride out into the range. I never watched Bonanza because that just never was my thing, but other Westerns in 1965 were Gunsmoke, which I always get Gunsmoke and Bonanza confused because they were both the two pillars of the Westerns in the 60s and 70s. Daniel Boone was a new show that was out. The Virginian. The Loner apparently was Western. It was written by Rod Serling. And Laredo was another show. And The Legend of Jesse James. Big Valley had Lee Majors, Linda Evans, and Barbara Stanwyck. After her huge movie career, apparently she decided to do some television. Petticoat Junction was a show I always saw when I was a kid because it was just always in syndication. It was kind of my grandma type of show. And for some reason, the three chicks on there were kind of cute. Like kind of sparked a little something in preteen me when I was watching television. Gidget with Sally Field was a huge hit, and I've never seen one episode of it. She was kind of cute when she was that young, and before she went off to do more television, movies and stuff. World of Disney, of course, Disney always had a television show, usually hour-long thing, or like show a movie or some kind of behind the scenes of Disney. Kind of usually always a big commercial for something that Disney was doing. You also had shows like the FBI, where they would dramatize actual files that were in the FBI at the time. Seems kind of interesting. The Trials of O'Brien was a show with Peter Falk, kind of pre-Columbo days. Run for Your Life with Ben Gazzara looked kind of like a fugitive type of deal. He seemed like a successful person, and some inciting incident makes him run for his life. And so I don't know how long that lasted, but it looked kind of exciting. Then we had some military shows. There was always an influx of military shows. And 1965 was no exception. You had The Wackiest Ship in the Army with Jack Warden and Gary Collins. And F Troop, Mr. Roberts with John Forsythe and Ambi Davis. If you know that name, it's because she is from Brady Bunch. And you had Camp Run Amok. Looked like kind of a farce. I think it was more of a camp situation than military, maybe. I don't know. I didn't really get much from the trailer that I saw for it. But you had some game shows. The Dating Show was brand new in 1965. I Got a Secret, where you had somebody come out and talk about some weird life achievement that they had, and you had to guess who it was. And what else? We have Steve Allen, Dean Martin, Smothers Brothers had their first show that would grow controversial over the next couple of years. They were a little anti-authoritarian, so they kind of leaned into the hippie aspect after a year or two. Merv Griffin had a show. Lawrence Welk show. Jackie Gleason had a show. This would have been way after the Honeymooners. I can't believe I think of him as either the Honeymooners or Smokey and the Bandit, so I think it's crazy that he was like a singer, like on par with Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin, as well as a comedian like those guys. And I Dream of Jeannie, which a lot of people thought of it as kind of a rip-off of Bewitched, but same in a lot of ways, different in a lot of ways. I was a big fan of I Dream of Jeannie when I was a kid. I can't sit through an episode of it now. It's so silly and so farcical. My Mother, the Car with Ann Southern. And we'll talk about that name in other episodes because she pops up in a movie that I was talking about in another video. I think it's 1975. My Favorite Martian, Lost in Space. Those were all for the sci-fi kids that were growing in numbers at the time. This is pre-Star Trek, you got to remember. Tom and Jerry, the Charlie Brown Christmas episode, Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, first year that aired. Honey West, there was a lot of spy type of shows too. And Honey West was Anne Francis, and she was the first female-led detective series of all time. I think it only lasted one season, but that's kind of groundbreaking. And The Man from U.N.C.L.E., that was probably the top-notch show for that kind of thing. Amos Burke was another one. Amos Burke's Secret Agent is what the show was called. Robert Culp and Bill Cosby were in I Spy, which was a movie with Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson, I think, about 20 years ago, maybe. Get Smart was the spy show that was more of a comedy. It was written by, created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry. Dick Van Dyke Show was a huge, groundbreaking sitcom. You also had Gilligan's Island. I spent a lot of time watching Gilligan's Island back in my day, and for the record, I'm a Marianne guy. My Three Sons, I've seen some. I think it's weird to see Fred McMurray in a sitcom, because years later I learned about him from like Double Indemnity and film noirs and stuff that he did. He also did Flubber and some other silly kind of Disney kind of shows, but Please Don't Eat the Daisies was another show I remember, mainly because of the big furry dog that they had, and the fact that the logo and the promo always had the big yellow flowers that I think of as like a hippie thing. But 1965, this was like a little predated some of that. I think it was mainly just a funny kind of family sitcom. The kid and the dog got into adventures. And speaking of animals, it was a big year for animal television shows. You had Flipper, the dolphin or porpoise, whichever it is, and Lassie, and I forgot to mention Wild Wild West when I was talking about westerns, because it was on a different line there. Might as well do movies. I don't know if I'm going to do a whole video for movies, because I don't really go back that far for movies. Obviously, any movies from 1965 I would see and scattered through other time periods, so I don't really have a way to define it to that year. But my dad made me watch Cat Ballou when I was young, and that one really kind of got under my skin. It's a Western, but Jane Fonda is amazing, and Lee Marvin is the drunk gunfighter that they have to sober up and get back into shape to. Oh, it's a great movie. You need to really you need to see it. And it's weird I said Nat King Cole died that year, because Nat King Cole and the other Burl Ives do all of the musical interjections between the different chapters of Cat Ballou. Mary Poppins did real good. It swept a lot of the Oscars that year. Mary Poppins and My Fair Lady just kind of dominated the Oscars. So it was a good year for musicals. Girl Happy was the Elvis movie, and it also starred Shelley Fabre. Is that how you say her name? Shelley Fabre. I think she was the girl that had the hit It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want To. And later on, she was the girl that's on Coach with Craig T. Nelson. Other movies include The Satan Bug, which is intriguing just by its title, but it also starred Anne Francis, Ed Asner, James Hong, George Maharis, and Faster Pussycat Kill Kill was a Roger Corman movie, and all these girl car adventure kind of movies that Roger Corman was making are all of the kind of things that are sampled in Rob Zombie's and White Zombie's music. So it's fun watching those movies because every once in a while you'll hear somebody say something, you'll go, hey, that's from that Rob Zombie song. Genghis Khan was a big epic from that year, and it's a little problematic. They were doing some of those they'd always done some of those big epic period movies like Ben-Hur and Cleopatra and whatever, but they didn't stay anywhere near the real story of Genghis Khan. It's completely fictionalized account, and there's also some incidents of brown face in that movie, so beware if you ever get a chance to see it. It's not great. It was free on YouTube for a little while, but What's New Pussycat? Obviously the theme song was Tom Jones, but it was written by Woody Allen, and a couple of years later you would get Woody Allen in the satirical version of James Bond in Casino Royale. It was the first time they used that title. Not obviously Daniel Craig rebooted James Bond with that title. That was the very first Ian Fleming James Bond novel, and they didn't start with that with James Bond for some reason. They started with Dr. No, and now we're 3 or 4 pictures into the James Bond series, and before they make a satirical version of James Bond with Orson Welles and David Niven and Woody Allen and a bunch of other people playing versions of James Bond. But the precursor to that was the Woody Allen movie, What's New Pussycat? The top 5 movies from 1965 were That Darn Cat, which, just from the title, I didn't care to look into it any further. Number 4 was The Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines, and it looked like kind of a chitty bang bang type of deal. It looked kind of interesting. Number 3 was the James Bond movie Thunderball. Number 2 was Dr. Zhivago, which I love. Dr. Zhivago. Geraldine Chaplin plays one of the women, and Julie Christie is just across time the love of my life, from the 60s to the 70s all the way till now. Dr. Zhivago seems like it would be boring, and it's long and kind of boring. It's during the Russian Revolution, and the guy was torn between the 2 women in his life, and spends long periods of time between the 2 different women, and it's just a really, really good movie, directed by David Lean, who I will mention a lot in these videos because he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And the number 1 movie from 1965 would be, of course, The Sound of Music. I said earlier that 1965 was a huge year for Oscars, and this one would be part of the Oscars the next year, but it was the number 1 movie in 1965. So there you go, 1965. If you were alive then and remember any of these things, tell me about it in the comments below. And most of us weren't born yet, so just live in some manufactured nostalgia. And yeah, see you on the next one. Subscribe and do all the things. Thanks.